Okay, recording is good. Stand by 1 second, double checking our recording here. We are recording on Zoom, so we're good, but I double check the stream here.
All right, well, I'll kick it off in less than a minute.
It's exciting.
All right, welcome everybody to our kickoff for HackFS judging. Today is day one, and I am Kartik, one of the co-founders of ETHGlobal, and we're super excited for the last week of wrapping up HackFS. So for those of you who don't know, for the past 4 weeks, we've had 470 hackers who've come in from over 50 countries and 19 different time zones, work on a project that uses tools and technologies from the Ethereum and the Filecoin ecosystem. And we've seen an amazing set of people work on really interesting projects and gotten support from a lot of our amazing sponsors that have kind of come out and helped these teams succeed in terms of making their projects a reality. And as of a few days ago, we got up all the submissions for these teams, and this week's we kick off what the projects are for everybody else to see. And I'm super proud to announce that after the past 4 weeks of hard work from our teams, we've had 132 projects being submitted by these 470 hackers. So we're super excited to see what everybody's done. And we kick off what that demos are going to look like today. And I'm super excited for everybody who's going to be looking at this recording later on, and all of our hackers to see what everybody else has done. So I want to quickly go into logistics of how this call is going to go. A lot of our teams are here ready to be judged and present what they've done. And the logistics are going to be fairly straightforward. We have about 13 teams today who are going to be demoing to our judges. And each team will have 4 minutes for their demo and 4 minutes for a Q&A session from our judges. And to kind of minimize any AV issues, we've asked every team to pre-record their demo. So they will just play the demo, and we'll go into the Q&A section after, so we can keep everything on time. And for our judges and everybody else who's going to be watching this video, a quick overview on how everything was set up for HackFS. Each team could have up to 5 members, and a lot of the projects we're going to see were done in teams, and some of them were also done individually, and those all also allowed. And as part of the rules of this event, all code that you're going to see as part of the demos was written during the course of the last 4 weeks during the hackathon. And the only criteria was that the projects we're going to see today must incorporate technologies and tools from the protocol labs and the Ethereum ecosystem, So a lot of the projects that we have for this event are really creative uses of decentralized storage and smart contracts. And the criteria for how the judging is going to go is going to be as follows. We have 5 categories that our judges are going to be rating all these projects on, and the categories are how technical a project is, how original the project is, the practical applications of the submission, how easy it is to use, whether it's a UI UX thing or as a developer tool, and a general catch-all that we like to call wow factor that lets us sort of understand and highlight any outliers. So before I move on to kicking off the first ever group for HackFS, I want to make sure that I kind of highlight this is not a competition. These are very much feedback sessions, and as a result, the hackers are here to learn. We have a lot of newcomers that have come on over the past month to learn about what they can do with Ethereum and Filecoin. Their hackers are there to share their excitement. They've been working super hard and tirelessly over the past 4 weeks. We've been doing constant check-ins with them. We've been helping them connect to mentors. We've given them technical help on many things, and we've done a lot of talks on what's actually possible in both of these ecosystems. And today is the day they talk about what they've learned and kind of how they've applied those learnings into a project that they've been working on. And the judges are here to give feedback to these teams. The judges themselves are also super excited to see what everybody's done, and as a result, this serves as a window of opportunity for us to learn from what is possible in this ecosystem, and also how we can actually improve and continue working on what we would like to see more. And as like a very kind of thing I want to press on, not everybody's trying to become a business. A lot of these are just fun projects that everybody is using and working on to show their creativity. And there is no explicit goal for any of them to become a company or anything beyond showing what the applications are. And want to make sure that they stay fun and exploratory in nature. So the schedule of how the next 2 hours are going to go is fairly straightforward. We have 13 teams today. These are the teams that are going to be going up and presenting, and doing the hard job are our 3 judges for today. And I want to kind of welcome them. And that's Aayush from Filecoin. We have Matthew from Unstoppable Domains and Ken Ng from the Ethereum Foundation. And all 3 of them will be kind of here listening to all of our hackers, giving them feedback and sharing their excitement with them. So with that, I want to kick off with our very first demo for HackFS, and like to call out our next team, and let's have them join the chat, and please welcome WatchdogDAO to kick off their demo.
Hi, I'm Mauro, and this is what I built for HackFS. It's called WatchdogDAO, and it's an attempt to bring accountability into governments and public institutions. You can't optimize a system that you don't closely measure. So this DAO can coordinate citizens around the world into gathering, analyzing, and acting on data to move governments into better representing our interests. Okay, so the first prototype I built is focused on long-term storage of government data in a way that it can't be tampered with. I come from Argentina, a country with a long history of instability and corruption. And the fact that our previous administration made a big push to open up its data does not mean that the current one or next ones are not going to stop storing it, providing it, or even tamper with the data. So what I did is just grab pretty much all the data sets that the government is exposing and just store it all on Filecoin. I have here the full data set. And then I stored an index file, which is just a JSON file with all the IPFS hashes and the file names. That's important because let's say in 20 years from now, you're a researcher or an activist, and you come upon this data set in particular here. And you want to know that it wasn't tampered with. So you just need to grab the hash, check that it's included on the index file. There. Just check that this index file is actually the one stored on Filecoin, and that's quite easy. And then you're good to go. Like, you just know that that wasn't tampered with. is focused on police accountability. It's storing video evidence of police abuse of force in a long-term archive. Right now, these videos are being stored on Twitter and Facebook, and there's no reason to believe that they will hold them for any particular amount of time. So the cool thing about the archive is that it'll be built by a decentralized network of activists around the world. The way it works is, let's say you want to start archiving videos. What you need to do is you need to submit a proposal using your Twitter ID and the reason. Should be a better reason than that one. And that generates a vote in our DAO. I'll just take just 1 second. I'll show in the meantime. This is the Aragon DAO. I built a little app that allows any DAO to curate their own list. And this DAO is using it to curate a list of approved Twitter accounts. So once you become an archiver, that's the transaction confirmed. So you should be able to see it there. So once you become an archiver, what you can do is you can come here, and if you see a relevant video that you want to archive, you just need to mention our bot with, it's called WatchdogDAO. My computer is acting up, and just hashtag archive, and the bot will do everything. It will archive it on both Filecoin and HackFS. I'm currently using Flick storage for this. And yeah, once that's done, you'll get a notification. And if you go to the archive here, sorry, that's the notification. Well, I got it on my phone. It's not showing up on the screen. Yeah, there. And if you go to the end of the archive, you should be able to see here. There, the archive video. So that's pretty much it. You can reach the site on both ENS and that crypto, and please feel free to propose an account as an archiver or yourself to join the DAO. Thanks to Filecoin and all the event organizers, as this has been really fun to build. Bye. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Thanks, Mauro. Any questions from the judges?
Yeah, I'll start. I think I missed it, but what's how do you get people to I guess store more, right? Like, is there an incentivized mechanism there where you want to further get people to actually store some of this? Because I feel like if it's on Twitter, right, you put yourself at risk at archiving some of these things, and now you're the worst thing is to make yourself an enemy of the state, because I'm trying to make sure I can hold the police accountable.
I understand. Twitter is just one of the sources. It's like the only one I did for this hackathon because there was no time. But I could do a simple bot for Reddit, for example, or anything to store data. And then the archivers could use pseudonymous accounts. They don't need to use their main account. And yeah, this is things that people are already doing. Like, people are already archiving things on Twitter. It's just that, for example, one of the videos I archived 2 weeks after it was posted on Twitter, it was no longer there. So just in case, we need this for long term.
Is there, I have a question. Is there a way for people, they can search through the archives? Because if you archive a bunch of stuff and then you want to come back like 3 years later, how would you find the files? I mean, I'm sure there is. I just didn't see it in the demo. Yeah, right now there isn't, again, for a matter of time, but there will be, yeah. Again, my country 40 years ago had a military coup, and a bunch of people disappeared. And right now the current democratic governments are looking for the evidence. And well, back then there was any, but we can't really expect Twitter to store everything for 40 years reliably. So this would be one of those use cases. I think it's a great idea. Which country, by the way? I'm just curious where you're from.
Argentina.
Oh, Argentina. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Just a couple of things, more feedback than anything else. I think you present a very compelling use case. Certainly, I think the point about just because people are making, because if there's an emphasis on trying to acquire and preserve this information today, that doesn't mean it'll stick around forever. We know that from history, and so I find that I think that's a very good point. I want to echo the idea about having some way to search and kind of filter archived information. I think that combined with adding more sources to this stream, not just Twitter right now, both of which I'm sure are already on your radar, are kind of probably our highest priority next steps to make this usable and impactful. But I think it's a great idea. I think
Cool.
I think it's a good example of taking something that's very clearly aligned with kind of the decentralized web and decentralized storage missions and making it happen effectively. So good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say I really like what it is that you're building here. So my mind is kind of swimming with how this could work, because I'm just imagining, like, I think Twitter is actually fine. Like it's probably enough to get a lot of it, because we see videos in the US right now about police violence, and it's I don't know. I think it's a great idea, and it's super straightforward. I think just got to get more people to use it. Another question I had is how right now all the data is being stored on Fleek. What would you? I know obviously you didn't have time to do this, but what's your ideas long term for how to ensure that the data stays up? You know, if Fleek wasn't there, for instance, have you thought through how maybe that would work?
Yeah, the first thing I built was the police archive and used Fleek because I didn't know the tech that much. That's why the second thing I built, which is the OpenGov data, I used just like a Lotus node directly. And if I were to build this again, what I'm gonna do, I think I really like the whole textile stack. I think that's really good. So maybe have a couple different oracles, like different institutions that hold the same data, and just use like the Power Gates and sort of thing directly, not rely on Fleek.
And would there be a way for the users to actually pay? Because the way that I see it is like, if I see something I want to store, am I paying for it? Is somebody else paying for it? How do you think it should be paid for?
The initial way I thought about it is just kind of as a non-profit. The good thing is that all this data shouldn't be that much data. Even if you store all the, let's take the police case, all the police abuse cases in the world, that's probably all the videos in a year are going to be like 1 minute of the videos that get uploaded to YouTube. Thankfully, there are not that many videos probably. So it shouldn't be, and storage is fairly cheap. Hopefully it will get cheaper with Filecoin. So it shouldn't be that much money. So yeah, maybe at the beginning as a non-profit, and maybe afterwards the DAO doesn't need to always be a non-profit. Maybe it could do some like for-profit things. Kind of dangerous there, but yeah, we will have to see.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, WatchdogDAO. We're going to move on to the next presentation. Thanks again. Okay, up next we have Codigo Hub. So I believe that you're all in the call now, and you're already sharing your screen. So please start your presentation, and then we'll move into Q&A after that.
Hi everyone, we are Team Codigo, and we build Codigo Hub, the IoT portal for firmware distribution, management, and collaboration. We're a team of 5 people, and we built it from scratch. The idea was conceptualized at the University of Edinburgh, and we reshaped it into Codigo Hub, a shop window for users to manage their IoT devices while incentivizing developers to contribute firmware for the billions of IoT devices currently connected to the internet. It's basically a secure firmware distribution service for the IoT. In Codigo Hub, users access firmware and incentivize developers to contribute, while a reputation system ensures trust between them, and a validation system enforces policy rules. But let me show you. Welcome to Codigo Hub. I see a map with all my devices and their active status, plus I see a summary of my activity on the hub, such as number of downloads, uploads, and bounties claimed. I have a new device running on the background called humidity sensor, so let's add that. The hub automatically picks up the active status of the device using MQTT, and as soon as my new device has a wireless module that I'm looking for firmware, I can search the repository and I find something relevant. I can check the source code, I can check the firmware details, and I can also check the community metrics such as number of likes, number of downloads, reviews, but I can also check the profile of the developer. I see that the community trusts them, they have some contributions and number of likes, so I'm happy with them. I can either download the firmware on my PC, but I can also just directly send it to the device over the air The firmware will be fetched from Filecoin and pushed to the device over MQTT. That's nice. I'm happy with the firmware, so let's leave a like. I can also leave a comment, or I can donate to the developer. However, assume that I didn't find the firmware I was looking for. I can create a bounty and set an amount of Ether on it to draw the attention from the developer community on the hub. The bounty will be registered with the bounty smart contract. The bounty has been registered, and now I'm waiting for a developer to notice it. Now I'm back as a developer, and I want to make some money on the hub. Let's check out this bounty. I can check out the description, the device, and I can see that it's open and for 0.1 ETH. So let's try to steal it. The bounty smart contract has validation rules that won't allow me to do that. So let's actually make a contribution. I upload both the binary and the source code to make collaboration easier, to increase transparency, and to allow users to directly deploy firmware on their devices. The new firmware will be registered with the smart contract for firmware repository and will also be kept on Filecoin. My contribution has been registered, so now I can go take the bounty honestly. The bounty is for 0.1 ETH, so I should see my balance increase by 0.1. I have received the bounty, and I can check my historical earnings on the platform by duration or by firmware. Finally, the hub is all about building up your profile as a developer by making good quality contributions, such that users will like and download your contributions, and you will build up your community score. And finally, this way you will make more on the platform, and your earnings will grow. Codigo Hub is a React app deployed on Flick. We use 3-box user profiles, Ethereum smart contracts for tracking bounties, users and firmware, and Filecoin for our storage needs. Finally, we use MQTT to communicate with the devices. This is our tech stack. Finally, we would like to implement the graph and unstoppable domains to visualize user history in the network and to link crypto domains with user profiles. Also, we'd like to develop stricter validation using different metrics and Chainiac, a research project validating the link between source code and binaries. Thank you for your time. Please check it out and give us any questions.
I think that's us. Let me stop sharing.
Nice. Quick question right off to start. What advantages are you getting from, is the decentralized aspect of it, whether that's Ethereum or blockchain, primarily to provide a marketplace for the bounties and, the usual single point of failure, the absence of a single point of failure advantage, or is there more?
I think that's mainly it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Cool.
Do you have any examples of some firmware that's been uploaded?
We've made some example contributions for Arduino code for a wireless firmware, for a wireless module, for example. And we've started this project on the hackathon, so all the contributions is what we've made.
And then who would be who do you think you would target to use this? So like you said, Arduino, do you think it's people doing small at-home toy devices? I'm curious.
So there's a couple of people. We'd hope to get a number of different stakeholders. Ultimately, would initially be people who are making toy devices at home, but manufacturers are something we're also interested in getting involved in the process, because we're looking to have a distribution service that can work for a lot of devices. So we need that kind of scale and support from them as well.
Also, and not only single users, but for example, companies or people who have deployments of devices and they want to be running a global single firmware on all their devices. That would be a good use case for them, because they could manage all their devices and also make sure that they know what they deploy and deploy a single firmware to all their devices easily.
Just a comment. One of the first things I thought was, man, it would be great to have a place where I'm storing all the versions of firmware, because every now and then you're looking for something that's like really old and you can't find. And so like when I saw you guys presenting, I immediately thought that that's what this was for. And I was like, oh, so I just thought I'd throw that out there, because when they update it and then my thing doesn't work and then I got to go find the older one. So I could actually see that also being able to archive the firmware for forever is also interesting.
Yeah, kind of related to that. I'm just wondering what are your essentially future improvements and enhancements? Like obviously there's work to be done in terms of getting it out there to more people, both creating bounties and developing firmware, but do you consider the product itself to be essentially done, or what more would you all like to do on it?
So firmware verification is one of the big tasks that we're kind of looking to do next, and to build that into the system. So that's not currently being implemented at the moment, but we've got a few ideas of how to do that based on existing systems and the existing solutions. So we'd look to incorporate into our tool to be able to handle that.
Additionally, we would also like, apart from software verification, to build stricter verification rules, for example, bounties, to make sure that they go to for a good purpose. Nobody, a developer can't just steal it by not committing nonsense firmware or something. Using firmware reputation metrics, user reputation metrics, and stuff like that.
Yeah, on that note, is the bounty currently confirmed by the creator of the bounty just saying, yes, this firmware is what I wanted, or is there more?
At the moment, it's confirmed only on the blockchain. So if there is a firmware registered for the device type being requested after the bounty has been registered, then that makes it eligible. But we would like to improve on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Team Codigo, for your awesome presentation. We're going to move on to the next team who are now in the chat. This is Project Coeo. So I'll please invite you to share your screen and start your video presentation.
Hello, my name is Yalda, and I'm going to talk about a new platform that started up in HackFS called Coeo. Coeo is a decentralized network for the future of collaboration and ownership. It's the brainchild of myself and hackathon partner Peter Phillips. Right now, we have a software consultancy together called the Coeo Collective. We've both worked in the DAO space for over 2 years, and through our experience, we have come up with a few goals that we are ultimately aiming to achieve in the long term. We need collaboration and governance tools that eventually take all dimensions of privacy into consideration and which are ultimately community-owned and governed. And within these tools, we need to enable safe spaces for members of the community so dissenting opinions are not penalized. We decided that the goal of enabling safe spaces would be a good place to start at HackFS. One of the major features we have developed is the ability to create an organization with one person, one vote proposals where votes are anonymous. We use Semaphore for zero-knowledge anonymous voting, 3box for profiles, messages, and threads, IPFS for decentralized storage, and Hedgehog as a client-side Ethereum wallet. So now I'm going to walk through a demo that was recorded in our local environment. We do have a version of the product live on coeo.network, although we're still testing it and fine-tuning it. Right now we are Chewy, and Chewy's going to create a new thread. So he populates the title and the message. And what this is doing is using 3box threads in the back end to generate this discussion. And now what I'm going to do is switch over to another account, Cat. So Cat's going to add a reply to this thread that Chewy just created. And then let's flip back to Chewy. Chewy sees Cat, clicks on Cat, sees Cat's profile, and clicks the follow icon. And then when we flip back to Cat, Cat gets a notification that says that Chewy has started following them. Now we're going to go back to being Chewy, and Chewy's adding Cat to a new organization. And now he's going to generate a voting key that's going to prove that he's permitted to vote while keeping his identity hidden. Now that he's done that, he can create a proposal. So this is going to create the voting object using the semaphore contract. And now you see the active vote there. So we're going to flip back into cat, and cat is going to vote yes. And after it's confirmed, we're going to see that the quorum changes from 50% to 100%. We have a lot more ideas that we're looking forward to incorporating into Coeo, and we will continue developing after HackFS. Thank you for your time and attention.
Great, thank you, Coeo. Questions, comments from the judges, and you can disable your video share now if you want.
Quick question to start, if you don't mind. What is Semaphore? Can you tell me a bit more about it? I've never heard of it before. Sorry.
What is what for?
Semaphore, the voting platform that I think you used.
Oh, it's a protocol for, I guess it's like they call it a zero knowledge gadget. Peter, do you want to talk more about that, or?
Yeah, so it's doing zero knowledge proofs on Ethereum. So it's basically you have all these identity commitments that get added to a Merkle tree, and then on the front end you'll do a proof that proves that you're a member of the group without actually without showing what your identity is. So you're able to show you're a member without revealing your identity when you vote.
Gotcha. So you folks use that, to essentially prove that you should be allowed to cast a ballot.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the only people allowed that can cast ballots. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think for like the demo, maybe like the whole story wasn't there for why you might want to have this anonymous voting, because for this use case, you also had 3-box profiles, and it was 2 people, and they're creating this organization. But we think of it like you have a larger organization. Maybe you have shared resources, and someone within the organization, they are having a proposal to fund themselves, and you might not get people participate in votes because they don't want to like hurt the other person's feeling by voting no. So with anonymous voting, you can vote no on, for example, funding proposals, and you won't hurt people's feelings, and people won't build up resentment that, oh, you voted no on my proposal, so whenever you create a proposal, I'm going to vote no for you. I think I'm part of like WatchdogDAO, so sometimes I think of this, I'm like, I feel like people aren't saying anything or voting because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. So we were really excited to use an experiment with Semaphore.
So this is super interesting, and I guess my question thrown back to you, just in what you just said, is do you think this would help to encourage WatchdogDAO, I guess, members or other DAOs to engage deeper and maybe not even just voting, but also trying to get more proposals in? I don't really.
I think it will. Right now, Semaphore doesn't work for token-weighted decision-making. I believe that there are some enhancements that can be made to the protocol to enable that, but I feel like it would really help a lot, and it opens up, different use cases like local, like more like if you want to like build a city and you want like people want to like vote on policy decisions, just so you can have your privacy on votes in general. So I think that there are a lot of different use cases, but I think this would be a really good one for DAOs in general too.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll just broadly say I like the idea. I think there's lots of scope there, and I think you guys have some cool directions to go in. Also, on a much less important note, I really like your aesthetic. I like the colors in the video. I like your logo a lot. It's all a good look.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling this cool 80s vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Good job.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the judges, I think we'll move on to the next project. Thank you, Team Coeo. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next project to come up is TeamSurti. I'm going to play the video just to avoid any technical issues here. So let me just cue that up.
Hi, hi, I'm Sunny Radade. Our team name is TeamSurti, and we are building Sky Storage on Filecoin. Next, we are of two people, Rajat and Sunny. One is front end and one is back end engineer. Next, so we are making video player theme in which we are using textile PowerGate to interact with Filecoin and IPFS, and we are using ETH plus IPFS concept to save the video file details in the Ethereum, and we are using Flick for host the IPFS website. Okay, so next. So initially you need to register, and then you can add file, and then you can access file. So next we will see the demo. Okay, so this is our demo, Sky Storage. Here new user needs to register. Click here to register. Once during the registration, Filecoin PowerGate will generate the token and Filecoin address for the MetaMask address. Once it is registered, you can see the Filecoin address and MetaMask address, all the details in the right side. Sorry for the lag. Yeah, successful registered. You can see in the right side MetaMask address, Filecoin address, and balance. Okay, now we will add the add file. Currently, there is no any video. User can change the storage config of the video file, like hot storage or cold storage, where user want to store. Okay, Filecoin. If you enable the Filecoin, then enabled will be true, and for Filecoin. Okay, now we will add the file. Okay. Yeah. So we are using small.mp for video name. Okay, and once it is max storage deal after uploading the video in Filecoin, the MetaMask transaction happen for this saving the video details in the Ethereum smart contract. Okay, so we are using ETH plus IPFS concept. So once it is upload, you can see over here a video, and below the video you can see IPFS and Filecoin at both storage. This video is stored. Okay, so you can play this video over here. So we are giving video functionality also here. Okay, now I have another account also where I have already uploaded video in IPFS and Filecoin in account 8. I'll show you. Okay, let me refresh it. Okay, once it is refreshed, I have already uploaded some videos, like 3 to 4 videos in IPFS and Filecoin already. Yeah, you can see. So this was our project. We and this project we have hosted in Flick hosting service. So we are using Flick also. Yeah, after demo time, we will go to the next slide. Sorry. Yeah, so how it's meant, we are using slide.host and the textile PowerGate to interact with Filecoin and IPFS, and a user can also change the storage config for video file before the upload, and we are using Ethereum smart contract to save the details, and Flick.co for hosting the website, and Next.js and Material UI for building the UI. Okay, next. What do in future we want to make encryption in video player, so we can securely share this video, and we also taking part in Apollo, so we will also do more hack in that event. Next. So this is the Flick hosting domain. So here you can see our website also. Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much, and if you have any question, we love to hear. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Great, thank you, TeamSurti. So I'll turn it over to the judges for any questions.
Okay, I have a question. Who's the user? Are you trying to get like YouTube people to publish their videos on IPFS, or what do you think is the use case for this?
Yeah, so currently we want to make like video player. So we want to make encryption video player where user can share the securely share the video, or like and can only video can play by the user who have uploaded. He needs to add the password, and once the password is done, so it will decrypt it, and they can they, they can see their video.
So you're imagining kind of like Substack for video on the decentralized web. Do you know what Substack is?
No, Substack, I didn't know.
Okay, yeah. So as a content producer, would I upload a video on here and then I could maybe sell it to people so that they could have access to that video, and then they would need to get a token in order to see it? I'm just trying to understand the use.
Yeah, so yeah, we want to make like this also. Like we can store our private video or any video which we want to store in the Filecoin or IPFS as an encryption model, and so and also we can share the video which we want to share encryptly on like our favorite people.
Okay, and then I'm going to steal this question. What are some of the next things you would want to build? Like, what are the other features you think are missing that you'd want to build for the product?
Yeah. Next thing, yeah, currently is like we want to move this power gate to textile buckets. So using buckets, and I think Flick Space Daemon is also providing authentication encryption. So we want to move onto that using Apollo events.
Okay, thanks.
One question: do you know, are there other similar things that already exist today? Do you know if did you like explore the space for kind of, I guess, IPFS hosted video players before you started on this project? I'm just wondering.
Maybe some existing project but we didn't see encryption like that. So we have explored the sheet of the HackFS, like a 100 ideas sheet, in which that we get this problem statement. So we started to developing on this.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we'll move on to the next team. Thank you, TeamSurti, for the great presentation. And we'll call up the next team, which is Decentramall. I'm going to play your video for you as requested, so let me just cue that up and we'll get started.
Hi, we're Team Decentramall, and we're building an unstoppable shopping destination. This is our team. We are solving the problem that current digital real estate holders are facing, which is that their current real estate is hard to monetize, and it's hard for them to build on top of it or rent it and operate the space. So we're making it easy for them to rent and operate it. We're building on top of Textile, IPFS, Fleek, and others. We want you to own part of the decentralized web, make it easy for you to buy and sell the space. We also want you to take ownership by governing the mall, uploading your curated product catalog, and incentivize shoppers to keep shopping. We'll jump right into the demo. So this is the mall.
And then we click on anything and we go here.
We will have your own space showing up on the landing page.
If you go to your profile, this is a space that you have bought. It's available for rent. So you can just rent space.
You can rent it out yourself, or you can rent it out to others. Here we're gonna add a new clothing store. And just like that, you can add a new storefront. and link it back to your online shop. Here we can see that the space is rented and links back to your store. You can also search for different stores or categories.
So you search for Nike, choose Nike, and you search for that. These things are clickable too.
And it's also really easy to buy. The price is determined by the bonding curve, and here you have bought your own store.
So there's a ENS name.
Awesome. Thanks, Decentramall. I'll turn over the judges to ask any questions.
Great music, obviously. That presentation had the most pep of anything we've seen so far. I am worried that I maybe didn't get it though. What is, I guess, the Decentra part of Decentramall and why?
All right, I'll take this one. So a lot of people got really excited about buying digital real estate, and then only to find out like how difficult it is to build it. You have to hire an external agency to build like a 3D space, and just to be able to display your digital art, or maybe try to sell your physical products like socks or t-shirts or shoes. And I come from e-commerce as well, and I'd like to be able to display my products in a decentralized fashion, basically on an unstoppable a place, and just be able to like really build it as easy as using like WooCommerce on WordPress or something like that. If I can also own the marketplace by having some say in the governance of the mall itself, then so much better.
Yep, I find that last bit persuasive. I guess my concern would be, I think obviously you have more of a background than I do, but I guess I worry that e-commerce already has challenges with people, wanting to go to actual stores, and they're like, do I want to do this online at all? Jumping from that to, getting them onto the still fledgling D-Web might be a challenge, might be something that limits you. But
I think Corona kind of fixed that a little bit. Not a lot of people want to go to stores anymore. So a lot of people shopping online. But I think also a bigger issue is like, if I want to put my products on a marketplace, like I have no say what's on the front page of that marketplace. Like it's up to them to decide like what they're going to put on. Whereas like if you own the mall, you could kind of decide, if the mall gets a lot of traffic, you could kind of make those calls, right? Like who gets on the front page, or like how it's all distributed, and like how to kind of traffic flows to the mall.
So I'm a fan. I'm curious about how the governance works. This reminds me of the $1 Million homepage. And then it's like crossed with the $1 Million homepage plus Decentraland. Like if I was gonna pick kind of how you're doing it here, I do like the idea that I could buy my way to the front page. So yeah, but I'm interested about governance. So who's the mall owner? Like who's the person who's going to make sure that traffic comes to the site? Because I understand like the way I get it is people like buying spots on the homepage to advertise their good, right? And so they can just do that directly on the smart contract. Who's incentivized to make sure that people get to that page? I'm curious about the governance aspect.
Sure. Like I think, just like any, like whenever you buy a house in a compound, or if you buy space in like on a retail street, like there should be some community kind of setting and like making those decisions, and wanting to hire like an external agency to do the advertising or so forth. I mean, ideally anybody who's getting space is to actually do some retail work, right? So you'd want to do part of the promotion yourself to kind of advertise your space on the mall. But as a mall itself, I think the governance, we're still early stages. It's just a fun experiment. We had tons of fun working on it. And I think the idea would be to, everybody to be able to call the shot and say, okay, well, we need to hire this, this particular SEO guy, or, this particular, advertising person to help us get more traffic. So that's the that would be the end phase. It's like everybody has control over those decisions.
Yeah. So just a comment, it's like, it feels like the thing that you're actually experimenting here with is like governance for online stores. And I mean, I think that's interesting. Obviously there's a lot more to do it, but I think it was a great job for the hackathon. Thank you for giving me something to think on.
Any other questions from the judges, or even questions from the hackers to the judges about, you know, what to do next for the project?
I would say you need to put this up on .crypto. So please reach out to someone on the Unstoppable team so we can get you Decentramall.crypto so we can have this up here so we can show it off to our community.
Awesome, thanks. Bernard, do you have any questions for the judges at all?
Nothing that I can think of. I wasn't expecting that. Well, thank you for your words. Yeah, we'll consider about the .crypto actually, because we are using Flake for now.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Okay, thanks so much, Team Decentramall. So we're going to bring up the next team that is Hymsheet. So Hymsheet, I'll invite you to turn on your video, share your screen, and begin your presentation.
Let's start by creating a songbook. I'll call this one Hymns. Now I'm going to add some songs. And I'll just paste the text in here. And then let's add a lot more songs. These songs are stored in an IndexedDB. This makes it really easy for us to do a full text search. Next, I'm going to share this songbook with the device I'm going to use as the controller when we go out to worship. And yes, that QR code was an IPFS hash. Next, I'm going to create a channel. And a channel is a group of people who see the same content at the same time. And you've guessed it, this is IPFS PubSub. And I want to share this channel with the people I'm hoping will come and worship with me. So this time I'm going to use the URL. I'm going to copy and paste it into an email and send it out to some friends and say, let's go up and worship on Colton Hill. There may be some bystanders who want to join in, so I'm going to print out a poster as well. And once they scan this, it'll drop them straight into the lyrics. So the idea of Hymsheet is that one phone, or a handful of phones, can control what a larger number of phones see on their screen, full screen. So this is me grabbing every device I can find and trying to get them to display the same lyrics at the same time. The laptop in the middle is controlling what the other screens see. But it's not just laptops and phones that have browsers. You're starting to find browsers embedded in TVs and also in smart projectors. And so this is a cheap battery-powered projector, and it's got Android inside of it, and that means it's got Chrome, and so it means I can use Hymsheet with that. What makes this especially interesting is that I can run this from a Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone, and so this means I can take this whole setup out on the street for hymn singing in the winter when it's dark in the evenings.
This is me just leaving, going up to Colton Hill. Ready? Okay, cool.
Since my soul, my Savior God, to thee, how great thou art, how great thou art.
So Hymsheet allows an unlimited number of groups to meet together, and these groups should be able to be really large. And it does so at zero cost. And this zero cost thing is really important, because the last thing you want to be doing is turning this into a business. You know, Jesus, he went into the temple courts and he saw that worship had become an industry there, that people were selling animals for sacrifices, and they're charging, more than these things costed. And so he got together a whip made of cords, and he drove those people out. I don't want to be whipped by Jesus. Why do I think this app is interesting? Well, there's many things now that are preventing Christians from meeting together to worship indoors. Firstly, there's COVID. Another reason is that we're starting to see council culture in the UK, and this is when large Christian gatherings are planned. There are Twitter campaigns against them, and we're no longer able to meet to worship in large public venues. And in some countries, churches are being demolished by authorities. Now, this is something which has happened in the past, and it's always brought Christians out into the open spaces.
Great, thank you, Himshit. Turn over the judges for any questions.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love that idea. It's extraordinarily creative. I think you make a very compelling case for how it could be used. I love the idea that IPFS / the D-Web can be the internet equivalent of Jesus cleansing the temple. And I love that you used How Great Thou Art. All I wish is that I was around Carlton Hill that day, because all I want is to sing that song in public with people. Huge plus for creativity, great presentation. And obviously, I think you have a specific use case in mind, but the general idea, I think, can be applied very broadly. I'm sure the rough idea of people needing to view the same information for some kind of group activity applies to various scenes, but certainly this is probably going to be more effective than the usual. And now we'll all open this worship book and turn to this page, and you're flipping through. Like this gets the job done very well. I think very creative, and I like the idea a lot. Great job.
Thanks.
I thought that was really fun. That was super cool. Quick question. Maybe I missed this. Is there any Ethereum in there?
No, there's not at the moment. The one place that I might put it in is as a URL shortener, because we're using long IPFS hashes in lots of places. And so actually having a URL shortener would be really nice to make it easier to share on Twitter and things like that, because we're piggybacking on current social media, which we kind of need for adoption.
Awesome. Do you have is there a QR code right behind you where we have some?
Yeah, there's one on the wall. And something I didn't mention in the video is that there's also a social share button. So if I click that on here, it brings up share on Twitter, share on WhatsApp, share on Facebook. So it's using some kind of nice new web APIs. There's also a full screen, a wake clock API, which allows you to keep the screen open, which is quite nice too.
Very cool. Awesome.
A couple more questions. How'd you come up with the idea? And also, how did you do all of that in 2 weeks? Because that's a lot of work.
So there's a disclaimer at the bottom of the video. So if you click on the video, you'll see that I created the slide viewer, the song viewer, about 6 years ago. It's an NPM module. And so that I just dragged into the project. And I just say, read the disclaimer in the video. It tells you exactly what I have done. But I have done a lot in this time. I've built the entire UI from scratch, and all this kind of stuff. So I was doing it with Svelte, which is a new kind of UI framework.
Great. Okay. If there's no other questions, then we're actually going to take a 5-minute break now to make sure the judges have a minute to write down their thoughts about all the teams they've seen so far, use the washroom if they need to. So thank you, Team Himshit. We'll start a 5-minute break now. And then the next team after that is going to be Unchained Index. So Unchained Index, we'll just stay on the line and we'll get back to you in a few minutes. So we'll continue our programming after that. Thanks. Okay, and we are going to get started as soon as all the judges are back and the team's ready. Okay, Unchained Index, I believe we've got you on. So please go ahead and start your video. Oh, sorry, Ken, are you back? Just want to make sure before we get started.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I put my camera back on, but I'm here.
No problem. Okay, Unchained Index, please take it away.
We're going to talk about our project, the Unchained Index, a Web3 native API. My name is Jay Rush, and I'm going to introduce my partner, Miriam Zandi, who's going to walk us through the demo.
Thanks, Jay. Prior to the hack, we had an application called TrueBlocks that ran as a local-first, desktop-only application. We call it a user-centric account explorer. TrueBlocks is 100% private and decentralized, but until now, it required the end user to run infrastructure locally. TrueBlocks builds an index of appearances of addresses as it scrapes each Ethereum block. Periodically, it creates a snapshot of the index, which we call a chunk, and an associated bloom filter, which is an order of magnitude smaller than the chunk. The API scans the index and informs the UI of which transaction details to give to the user. In Web 2, of course, the infrastructure is on a server, leaving the user interface in a browser. Server applications are not private, are not censorship resistant, they are not decentralized, and they are not trustless. They are not Web3 native. And the problem is this query right here. For our submission, we wanted to see if IPFS could help TrueBlocks retain the benefits of Web3 without requiring the user to run infrastructure. We left the API on the user's machine and moved the indexer and the scraper to a server. We added 3 new pieces of software: a publisher, a consumer, and a smart contract called the Unchained Index. Now, each time a chunk is created, the publisher pins it to IPFS and then redundantly pins it to Pinata. With each pinning, the publisher updates the manifest. The hash of that manifest is then posted to the smart contract. The manifest contains IPFS hashes pointing to each pinned item. In addition, it includes pointers to documents describing the data. Finally, it points to a git commit of the source code that created the index. This allows users to verify the data if they choose, making the data as trustless as possible. Note that the publishing process does not deliver data directly to users. As a result, as the number of users increases, the cost of publishing does not increase. On the user side, each time the user queries, the consumer reads the manifest from the smart contract and downloads any new bloom filters, which are used to determine if any chunks need to be downloaded. The process then retrieves those relevant chunks from IPFS. A notable aspect of this pattern is that the API, and therefore all queries, remain entirely on the user's machine, making the application completely private. Another nice piece is that each user carries their own weight. Small users pin a small amount of the index, perhaps as small as tens of megabytes, whereas larger and larger users pin a larger portion. And popular contracts like Uniswap or Compound, which appear in nearly every block, would pin nearly every chunk. To us, this seems fair. So now for a short demo.
This is the publisher running on the server machine and actively scraping Ethereum mainnet, building the indexes. Here in red, it says it pinned the index chunk for this IPFS hash. And here it pinned the bloom for a different IPFS hash. And finally, it pins the manifest and posts it to the smart contract address. I'm going to switch now over to the user side of the equation. This is the TrueBlocks Account Explorer desktop application. In this window, we're showing the index chunks, of which there are none, but there will be soon. Here we're running the API, which the UI connects with. I'm going to double-click here, and the API has gone out and starting to download chunks of the index from IPFS. You can see it starts to fill in here. Now it's starting to download some chunks. And as soon as the chunks are downloaded, it will hit the Ethereum node to bring the transaction records into this application. And here's all the transaction records.
In summary, the Unchained Index is a naturally started, incrementally, and deterministically produced index of every appearance of every address on the Ethereum mainnet. It preserves user privacy and is reproducible, unlike traditional old-fashioned Web 2.0 APIs and blockchain explorers. Let's do this. Let's build Web3 native APIs.
Awesome. Thank you, Unchained Index. We'll turn it over to the judges for any questions.
Sure, I'll take a stab. So isn't this first of all, isn't this still going to be pretty slow? I'm just curious about what the speed is for doing any lookup against this. And then at the end, you say, what is a Web3, we need to have Web3 native APIs. Can you just expand on that? Maybe just from a high level theoretical perspective, why I should care. So is it slow? And then what do you mean by Web3 native API?
Sure. So first of all, it's surprisingly fast, but I think that has to do with Pinata being in the mix. And we also use the IPFS gateway. So there is a sort of Web 2 aspect to that part. Eventually, we hope that as the data gets distributed, IPFS would be more likely to find a copy of the data that it's looking for on other users' machines. So we pin those chunks that are downloaded to each individual user on the end user's machine as a default. So in the hopes that the index gets broadly distributed, making it more and more likely to be found by IPFS just straight up without the aid of Pinata. Because we want to encourage that distribution to happen naturally. We want that distribution to happen without the user actually having to do anything. Was that both questions? Sorry.
Yeah, and then so Web3 native API, that would basically, it would only really work for append only type databases then, right? Because if you updated it, then obviously if they're storing it locally, they're not going to be, there's nobody to really update that. I'm just kind of curious, what do you think the use case is for Web3 native API?
So that's why we mentioned deterministic and incrementally produced, because once we create a chunk, then that chunk gets a frozen solid IPFS content addressable hash. And we can publish that once to a smart contract as part of the manifest. And then that piece of information is available to every one of our users' applications or anyone's users' applications forever. So that you never have to republish where this data is. So there does have to be someone pinning this data. And I think that the community should purposefully decide to be the people that pin this data, which includes a large user base. And there does have to be kind of a backup organization that pins this data. But once it's pinned and once it's available forever in the same location. And I hope that people recognize that we can choose as a community to do this on purpose.
Let's say, what would be like a first use case? It's okay if it's contrived. I'm just like, what type of community do you think maybe this would benefit?
I think it benefits almost all the communities in Web3 because the way the thing's shaking out now is we're basically building a system that has gatekeepers around it. Web2 companies basically who are trying to sell access to this data, sell access to not only the node data, but also an index to the node data. And I think that if these gatekeepers are successful in monetizing the data or the indexes to the data, that we're going to end up in exactly the same place we are now with gatekeepers. And I want to make this data, I always felt that this data had to be completely permissionless or it will get captured eventually, and that's not a good outcome.
Quick comment and a quick question. I think we're at time.
We can do one question, and we'll move on.
Sounds good. Yeah, quick comment. I think I like it. In general, I like things that are like doing this handshake between executable code and decentralized storage, and I think this is nice for that reason. Quick question: What happens in TrueBlock, completely independent of HackFS, I guess, when there's a chain reorg?
Yeah, we stay away from the front of the chain by 6 minutes. And then because we're creating these chunks, we wait until there's 500,000 records in the chunk so that the chunks are about 2.5, 3 hours behind the chain. And we think 6 minutes, so there's a distance between the chunk and the front of the chain. So we don't worry, we reconsider the front of the chain until it gets 6 minutes old. And then we stop reconsidering the front of the chain, but we don't produce the chunk until about 2.5 hours.
Okay. So only a reorg that touches over 2.5 hours of history would mess things up for you.
Seems kind of unlikely. And the end users, that's just the nature of a blockchain, and there's really kind of nothing you can do about that other than just inform the end users of that.
Yeah, that's the unsolvable problem. Sounds good.
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Unchained Index. We're going to call up the next team to bring in their presentation. So that is FinFile. I think, John, we've got you on already. So if you want to share your presentation, we can get started. John, we don't hear your video if there is supposed to be audio. I think maybe you haven't clicked the share audio button.
Oh boy.
You'll have to stop sharing and then you'll just click the share screen video again, and then make sure to click the dialogue option in the lower left. Happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
Oh boy. There we go. Got it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the demo of our HackFS app, FinFile. FinFile is a Python Flask app that allows the user to input a stock or top 100 crypto symbol, and the app will generate a 5-year weekly chart and an Excel file with the same price data. Users can send this data to Filecoin via Textile.io's hub, where they can retrieve the data using a URL generated by the hub. Let's take a look at the app in action. Let's generate a chart of AMD advanced micro devices. The app generates a chart. We can now download a PNG image of the chart. As well as an Excel file with the same price data. Let's push these files to Filecoin. First, we need to initiate a hub bucket. Call it demo. We do not want to encrypt. And it generates 3 URLs. We're only concerned about the second one. Let's push our data to Filecoin. We want to push these 2 changes. Now we want to generate those bucket links. We're only concerned about the second link. And there we go. Our 2 files are now on IPFS under that bucket ID. Let's inspect one of the files. Awesome. Our chart of advanced micro devices is now on Filecoin. Let's take a look at what we have planned for the future. Users can use a chart layover if they want to compare 2 similar assets. In the example, we have Ethereum and Bitcoin and the price action over the last 5 years. Let's take a look at the flow of files in the FinFile ecosystem. Users can push data via the hub bucket, or external contributors can push data to our financial data store. Users pay Filecoin to FinFile or external contributors whenever they access their data. Next steps, we need to hook up a gRPC client to automate file transfer to Filecoin, add new APIs for more granular data and metrics, and consider ways to integrate content from other contributors. We need to improve the UI aesthetics and functionality. Thanks for watching. You can find our repo at the link below.
Great, thank you, FinFile. I'll turn it over to the judges for questions.
I'll jump in with a question. What benefits does this provide over kind of, some of the services that are already out there, like FinViz or whatnot?
Okay. After speaking to an interested party, if you think about the traditional finance industry, they have things like Bloomberg machine, Wall Street Journal feed, so they can get that. They can get that information pretty readily now. I would focus it on cryptocurrencies and offer other types of data that they can't get from some place like CoinMarketCap or Crypto Compare. Such thing as hash volume, how many apps are on the network, very specific information that could probably only be found with our app on our site.
Interesting.
Why store it on Filecoin or IPFS?
Typically, from my experience in the securities industry, when you're looking for historical data, say data that's 10, 15 years old, very granular data, for example, for technical or fundamental analysis, it's very, very difficult to find it. And especially if you would consider with cryptocurrencies, there may be some data that's very specific that could really not be found anywhere else. And it would be nice to create a repository where institutional investors or individual investors who do their own homework could access our files on Filecoin.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense. That's a recurring theme, is storing data for a very long time. That makes sense.
Yep.
Is there any thought about, so this is, maybe this is a little further out, but or maybe crazy. Is there a thought behind kind of, because there's longitudinal data and, with incentive structure, you can actually start to think more about reputation score of technical analysis. Maybe I think a lot of traders trade on TA. And
Yeah.
So if you have that, you can start to build a reputation over kind of how all of that works over time, who's more successful, kind of all the, sometimes it just looks like, randomly drawing lines everywhere. Maybe someone's a better line drawer than someone else. And then maybe, having prediction markets over who they think is the most successful at doing TA. That might be cool. Is it something you thought about or something you're interested in?
I'm very interested in that. I haven't thought about that because I completely agree with you. Anybody can draw lines and make them look like, hey, wow, that looks cool. It makes sense. But it right. But it means absolutely nothing. So to have like a reputation score and to score like the data that was filed, like, all right, this one has like a 95 percentile success rate compared to the other one who does pretty lines and maybe their success rate's only 45%. That would really be great because it would differentiate the quality of the data being stored. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Please. I was just gonna say it would be interesting to have that also thrown on a prediction market because if you stake on someone else's TA and you actually think, I fully believe that this is going to work, that unlocks capital for the person. And I think at some levels there's some confirmation bias there. So if everyone's following the same trends, it sort of moves the market a little bit. And I don't, maybe this is going into some weird territory, but there might be something there with prediction markets and actually staking with the person whose TA you agree with and you draw the same lines with, and you kind of all pull your money together to throw into AMD on I don't know, maybe like a 2-week call on AMD.
Right. Wow. Very, very interesting. Hadn't thought about that. That just creates another aspect to it.
John, I had one more for you, which is
Sure.
What things had you thought about that you want to add to this project if you were going to keep working on it?
Okay. the data feed that I'm using is Yahoo Finance because it's a Python Flask app, and it kind of was a good fit. But I think that to make the quality of the feed better, I was thinking of introducing Chainlink oracles and getting feeds from like different Chainlink adapters. There's some really cool stuff out there.
And then another one, is there a way for other people to upload their own data files so that maybe there's a way to socially share? Or is it just like you just want to pull it? And then I'm curious if there's a social component, like I can add to the data set or not.
Well, I'm trying to make kind of like an ecosystem where people absolutely could add to it. And then, you know, ensuring that it is truly decentralized.
Cool. Okay, we're out of time. John, one of the things maybe to think of is you should check out a project called Numerai. I'll send you the link in chat, but it kind of has some of the ideas you were just chatting about here, and you might just find it interesting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you, FinFile. We're going to call up the next team. That is a mobility marketplace. I believe you're on the call already, so please go ahead, share your video, and we'll get started.
Hello, friends. This is Dark Horse Mobility Marketplace. What's the idea? To provide a decentralized platform that connects data creators, in this case, mobility users, with data consumers, advertisers. Why? It's about time we compensate people for the data that they create and the ads that they see. This project kind of draws inspiration from products such as Brave Browser. It compensates users for seeing ads. And the Ocean Protocol, which is a general purpose data sharing protocol built on Ethereum. We have three kinds of user groups here: micromobility users, which are the data creators, and the data consumers, which are data scientists and ad agencies. And some of the tech we have here is IPFS, Ethereum, Fleek hosting, storage, Textile, ThreadDB, libp2p, MetaMask, Infura, and ENS integration.
As a micromobility user, I'll be interacting with the React Native app. The React Native app supplies the data that makes the marketplace tick. So basically, we'll be delivering the data that will be able to purchase by the advertisers, and that will be posted to ThreadDB, as well as interacting with the smart contract and opting into the data rewards program. In return for receiving ads, the user can earn and later withdraw Ethereum rewards. We'll begin with the React Native app, where users will push their profile to ThreadDB, as well as initialize themselves for the rewards program. Each user will simulate a trip here, and each user will be able to push their own collection for advertisers to purchase the rights to that data. And once the trip is completed, they will be served an ad through Ethereum and Ethereum smart contracts and IPFS, which will serve them a reward, which they can then claim.
So here, an advertiser can view the data sets that are available for purchase. So for example, here we have a data set from Milan, and in particular, we have one for the year 2020. Month is the 7th, and then the day is the 10th. So here, I can view some more metadata on that particular data set, and if I'm interested, I can purchase it. This will bring up the MetaMask transaction. I'm going to confirm it. Okay, the transaction was successful. I'm going to go over here to the data sets view, where I can see the actual data sets that I've purchased, and then I can actually download them to my machine. So another thing an advertiser can do is create a campaign, and these campaigns are served to users once they finish trips. So here I'm going to go through the process of creating one. I'm going to give it an organization, UFC. I'm going to say it's going to be UFC 255, and I have a budget of 0.5. This just pulls from the active users we have in the rewards program. It's read from Ethereum. And here's just a regular algorithm that we have for detecting how many users you can reach. Here, we're just going to set the asset. This is stored in IPFS, and the hash is stored in the Ethereum smart contract. And a little note here is that any unspent Ethereum from the campaign will be refunded when the campaign expires. We will also speed this part of the video up. Great, so the transaction went through, and now if I go to campaigns, I'll be able to see my active campaign. And here's the asset, here's the details, the budget, when it expires, which is 15 days from now, and how many impressions we had on the ad. Another feature that we have is the feed, where we can see all the activity. For example, we can see all the campaigns that have been added, and here is our most recent campaign. We can see when a user received rewards. And here, for example, we see the campaign that the user saw in the React Native app.
Thank you. It was Dark Horse.
Great. Thanks, guys. We'll turn it over to the judges for any questions.
Not a question, but no, cool idea overall. I think it was well executed. I'm impressed that you got Charles Barkley as a user of what are your immediate next steps? Where do you want to take this?
Definitely want to introduce some kind of encryption layer. So as of now, we need to have more privacy. Data stored on Fleek. There's no process in the backend to pull the data from ThreadDB into Fleek. That would require some kind of Go process. We didn't get around to that. And honestly, we just want to improve the algorithm for distributing the rewards. As of now, it's pretty basic, but obviously we know the advertising world is anything but basic. So yeah, that would be some of the next steps.
Yeah, do you feel like that's the core of your product?
Like serving the ads and
yes,
protecting them?
And figuring out how you'd be rewarding.
Yeah, I would say that's the core of what we worked on, and just the concept of how we're going to serve it, especially based on, like in the micromobility world, how they're going to be served it based on where they are and serving relevant ads.
Yeah, it's all about compensating users for their data and for their, you could say for their usage of the product, and either whether it be them contributing data to a data set or them actually being shown ads. I guess both ways they should be earning money, right?
Yep, seems reasonable.
So what are the current, what are the current constraints of the ad tech world now that stops this from being a reality sooner?
Well, yeah. So from somebody that we spoke to recently, apparently there's a huge bidding system when it comes to advertising, and that bidding system happens within nanoseconds most of the time. So where is that going to live in this current Web3 architecture, for example, right? Is it going to have to be some kind of Go process? Does that remove from the trustlessness? Does that remove from the decentralized nature of the architecture? That's the first one right off the bat.
How do you think it should be done? What's the best way for that to actually happen? So right now, the bidding process is really fast, and this is just anecdotal stuff that I've spoken to a couple of friends who work at Teeds. It's pretty insane how crazy that the tradition, the traditional world is for advertising is. But I can imagine in the decentralized world, if we can have actively bidding on ads for maybe a 30-minute lockup, maybe in crypto voxels, right? Or just giant billboards and stuff. How do you imagine something like that would work?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe there's some kind of pool where all the Ethereum is from all the active budgets. And then maybe there's some processes in between that are maybe managed by the advertisers, maybe through a mobile app or whatever, they can increase their bid. And then there's just state channels between the advertiser mobile app and the pool of ads that are going to be shown within the next, for example, 30 minutes, like you said. But eventually we'll definitely need some kind of layer 2 technology, because you're not going to do that on mainnet.
Right. Is it something you guys are interested in moving forward with?
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's next? What's the immediate next step after this hackathon?
Immediate next step is improving the reward algorithm and adding the encryption layer for sure, because that has to be in there.
Very cool. Awesome, guys.
Yeah, no, I think I like it. I think it's well executed from start to finish and good scope. Good job.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mobility Marketplace. We're going to call up the next team, Decentralized Docker Hub. And there's just 2 more teams. So there's Decentralized Docker Hub and then 1 more after that. And that'll be the end of this session. So you got the video up already, so please take it away.
Hackathon, I worked on Decentralized Docker Hub. Using Decentralized Docker Hub, you can easily push and pull Docker images from IPFS and Filecoin. It is powered by PowerKit. I decided to work on Decentralized Docker Hub because I believe that we need an alternative to centralized Docker Hub. Relying on a single centralized source for Docker images is risky because if an image gets deleted, then it will affect all your dependencies. In the past, there have been cases where a particular popular package from NPM got deleted and all the packages which relied on it were affected. Hence, I believe that Decentralized Docker Hub is an effective decentralized solution. It is also a cost-effective solution because it depends on IPFS and Filecoin, where IPFS is a hot storage layer and Filecoin is a permanent cold storage layer. Now let me quickly show you a demo for Decentralized Docker Hub. The first step is to install Docker and Docker Compose. In the next step, you run PowerGate, Lotus and IPFS containers. These are the steps. I already have it running over here. In the next step, you create a FFS instance from a new tab and note down the token from the output. This is the token. I've already exported this as an environment variable, so I'll skip this step. In the next step, you determine the Docker image that you want to push to IPFS and Filecoin. You can either create a new Docker image locally or fetch it from another source. In the next step, you will clone the Decentralized Docker Hub repo and then check out to the Decentralized Docker Hub rep branch. I've already done that. In the next step, you'll push an image to IPFS and Filecoin. First, let me push the Alpine image. As you can see that first it got added to the hot storage layer, that is IPFS, and the next step it skipped Filecoin because it is already pinned. In the next step, I'll try to push the IPFS image. The first step, it got added to IPFS and then it skipped Filecoin because it is already pinned. And the next step, we'll pull the Docker image from IPFS and Filecoin using the CID from the previous step. As you can see that it successfully pulled the IPFS image. Similarly, you can also pull the Docker images using the ENS domains. So firstly, you need to link the IPFS CID to your ENS domain and then you can pull it using this command. It also supports the testnet for the ENS domain. In this way, we pull the Alpine image using the ENS domain alpine.docker.eth, and finally you can create a container from the image that was pulled from IPFS and Filecoin. As you can see that the container got created successfully. This concludes the demo for Decentralized Docker Hub. Thanks.
Great, thank you. We'll turn over to the judges for comments, feedback, and questions.
Cool, solid idea, definitely. I think you identified a very specific use case and
Yeah.
sounds like it would work. One immediate question, how, like where are these things being shared? So say if I'm pushing something onto your thing, how do I let people know that I've pushed this new image, and how do people find out what where to get it from? Is it just the usual?
Maybe maybe people can create their own host their own page on IPFS and they can link it to an ENS domain and share that that they are hosting these Docker images. And also, like say for example, if I'm hosting certain images, then I can link it to a certain ENS domain and use subdomains for that, and I can advertise that thing.
Right, but okay, that's fair. But people essentially already have to know who I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people can host their own pages on IPFS, which links the IPFS hash over there.
Sure.
No, I agree. It's a needed idea. I do think there is some work to be done around discovery because it's basically going to be impossible for anyone to find this unless they know to look for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love it because it's super simple and it works and it's needed. So I think good job on, like, it's hard to find a use case that makes sense. And I think this was a good find.
Thanks.
Okay, there's no other questions or feedback. We'll move on to the next and final team in group one. Thank you to Decentralized Docker Hub.
Thanks.
So we're going to call up and just get on the call NewsBuff. So Veronica, whenever you're ready, you can start your presentation and we'll go from there.
Hi all, this is my submission for HackFS 2020. NewsBuff is for citizen reporters who are on the ground when news happens. This underserved community and their stories are vital for change and accountability in society. In the current mainstream media, the 24-hour news cycles ensures any attempt at large-scale change only gets covered when it can be portrayed in a dividing and fear-mongering manner. This can easily be seen with the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests in the US, where the federal government has sent unmarked officers to subdue protesters through violence, intimidation, and dangerous tactics. And despite these newsworthy Geneva Convention violating tactics, mainstream media has failed to inform the public and only covered the protests when there was polarization to be made through violence. Some major outlets that were meant to be informing the public have become nothing more than clickbait farms, sensationalists, and polarizing forces. Through the insatiable force of capitalism, other outlets have had to adapt to serve niche communities rather than the general public, resulting in them taking sides in a debate they were meant to be agnostic in their coverage of.
Yeah, sorry.
Trust in traditional news outlets has never been lower, and yet
Sorry, Veronica, we don't actually see the video. Is there supposed to be video along with the audio right now?
Oh, yes, there definitely is.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, hold on.
I did like the audio though. The
Yeah, we're just
insatiable
on desktop right now.
I kept waiting for the video to start because I thought it was just like an audio intro.
Okay, no, hold on. Let me try reshare. That's odd. There definitely should be visuals.
Sounds
I
good.
think you shared the desktop instead of the specific window where the video is playing.
Oh, I see. Okay, can you see now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Can I just press play from where we were?
That's fine if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm chill with that.
Okay.
The need for high-quality, verified information has never been higher. This vacuum created a space for social media to replace traditional news in consumers' information diets. While convenient for the consumer, this has resulted in vast opportunities for misinformation and propaganda to fester. Social media platforms are designed to be addictive and controversial, creating an echo chamber in the size of which we have not faced before. The lack of curation and accountability on the side of social media has only made things worse, the real effects of which we are only just beginning to feel. We need a canonical source of ground-level information. We need a purpose-built platform that will not incentivize virality over integrity. NewsBuff will be this platform. Through the use of decentralized storage, we are able to create a censorship-resistant platform. NewsBuff makes use of decentralized storage and hosting, as well as Ethereum smart contracts to create an immutable storage of information. We take advantage of the latest web development frameworks to make a responsive and modern web application. This is an overview of how the system is built. A non-fungible token with 3 blocks is used to identify a user within the system. IPFS, through Textile, is used as a storage layer for content, and DAI is used as the currency for tipping. The entire system is composed in Vue and JavaScript with the use of a TypeScript helper to integrate with Textile. The live site is then hosted through Fleek. Now let's go through what this looks like with a demo. You connect your wallet. It checks if you have a 3-box account. Because I already do, it logged me in automatically. If you hadn't had one, it'll make you one. Here's the homepage, full of lots of information about us, which I would recommend reading. You can then browse posts. You can also tip creators for their hard work. You yourself can also create a piece of content. When you create content, you will have to sign a transaction in order to add this content to your token. You can then view the content you created. After HackFS, NewsBuff plans on a V2, which will be mobile first and include a DAO for community curation of content, as well as some machine learning models for initial curation of content. Ideally, we'd also like to raise funding, expand the team, and launch version 2 in November. And for a quick intro, hi, my name is Veronica. I've been a full-time blockchain developer for the last 2 years, and as of June this year, I left my job to create NewsBuff. If you'd like to know more, please don't hesitate to reach out or join the Telegram group. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.
Great, thank you. And we'll turn over the judges for comments, feedback, and questions.
Yeah, great idea. I think it was not difficult for you to convince us of the need of something like your product, but you do a good job of it. And I just want to say shout out for making this your full-time mission. That's very cool. What are your I guess, how do you plan on getting people to actually start? Because it looks like it's close enough to be used today. I'm sure there's improvements you'd like to make. What are your plans on actually getting people to start posting content and using your service?
Great question. So my plan is to kind of target people who are in desperate need of this like censorship-resistant platform. So specifically the protests in the US and in Hong Kong. But I don't think it's necessarily at a usable state for that group of users just yet, as a lot of Web3 technologies kind of adds quite a bit of friction. So I definitely want to make a second version where I've reduced a lot of those friction points before actually trying to target my end goal users.
And how do you plan on reducing those friction points?
So mostly just because obviously this was a hackathon and I solo hacked, so it was a lot just to do it just with me. So it's mostly just like optimizations, kind of bundling transactions, that kind of stuff, just reducing the general friction, and then like finding a really nice wallet to integrate with that kind of simplifies it on their side in terms of key management and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. So I'm trying to figure out like what the part about this is that's like difficult. And so like if you want to do news, the hard part is actually curation, or at least that's one of the hard pieces. So and you mentioned a DAO. Doesn't look like you have that here. So anyone can just take a picture and then post it up on IPFS and then claim that it's news. But like the actual having like some sort of like scroll that I actually know is news. How does NewsBuff solve that problem? By the way, great name, but I'm just curious. I'm just curious how it's going to be news and not just cat pictures. Because
no, for sure. So there's kind of two levels of curation. The first one being a machine learning algorithm that's run client side on your content before it actually gets into the system, as to say. And that does like initial curation, making sure it's not hate speech, making sure it's like relatively, kind of fits the news bubble of like words and stuff that gets used often in news. Obviously, it's not the be all and end all. Algorithms tend to, have blind spots and that kind of stuff. But the second layer is actually like a human curation DAO that's financially incentivized through, a 1 minute warning, through like a paywall dash ads kind of model going on.
Yeah. So just real quick, I've actually seen a lot of these similar projects. And so some of the things that I've seen people use to attack this problem is they'll have like their friends, because they'll actually use the social graph. That was one way I've seen that happen in order to curate news. Yeah, so I'm very keen on these types of projects, but I do think that the hardest part is actually the curation and not the posting. So I will be following along for NewsBuff. And great branding.
Thanks. No, 100%. The curation of content is actually by far the most difficult part of this. How do you prevent like Russia DDoSing something and that kind of stuff? So sorry, I know my time's up. Sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, NewsBuff. That is the last project we're going to see today in Group 1. Thank you to all the teams. After so many weeks, it's really exciting to see what you've all built. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the teams as well over the next coming days. So we'll, I think, stop the stream, stop the recording there, and close this off. Thanks very much to all our judges as well. And obviously, we'll be in touch after the call with any details.
Thanks, everybody.